Good morning, everyone. Kate and Fiona Pearman here, joining you for this week's Facebook Live, where we're really stepping in to talking about speaking your truth. This is all about being authentic, something that we spend a lot of time talking about, working with our clients on in the Acts of Confidence program. And I think, Fee, it really is, it's something that is really important and something that doesn't get talked about a lot.
So often we hear about, really fabulous, talented women, but they're not saying the things they'd like to say. They're not speaking up in all sorts of situations. They're not sharing. They're not necessarily contributing in a way that they'd like to. And the really deeper piece of this is that feels uncomfortable in ourselves. We actually feel out of integrity with ourselves. We feel as though we're holding something back. And that's a dynamic that is going to feel really challenging. And so as we start to unpack this and understand, what's going on here, it's really important to be a little bit compassionate, but also stay with the querying. Why is it that I'm not willing to speak up or to share more in these particular circumstances?
Yeah, I think this can be the flip side. As we started to dig into this a little bit, the flip side of imposter syndrome, right? Which is imposter syndrome is worrying about being called out for something that you're not. But there's this other side of not sharing all of who you are. And I think what happens in that moment, and we've all been there, right? The piece around, the behavior of not speaking up, worrying about getting it wrong. Is this my place? Do I have permission? All of those sorts of things is something that is very real. It's probably the number one behavior that we see and hear when we talk with women about our work around confidence. It's the behavior that seems to play out. This is where I'm not showing up in my brilliance, in sharing all of who I am because of this fear piece. And I think your piece around compassion is really important because for many of us, this does play out pretty significantly frequently as well. So this isn't isolated events. It's often happening multiple times over the course of a day. Those meetings where you've got something to say and you're not sharing that, you've got a question you'd like to ask that you're not asking. And so I think the compassion is really important because there's absolute shame that can come from this, which is I want to, but I'm not because of the fear.
And the more we think about this, often there's all sorts of stories we're telling ourselves. There's all sorts of ideas that we have. Will I be judged for being different? Will I be seen as someone who's a troublemaker? Will I be, not included anymore because I've said something that I can see is probably really important here? However, saying it feels really challenging and risky. And I think the piece that we hold here is there's an opportunity to do something differently. And of course, it's not trying to do something huge. It's about how do I, in small but significant ways, stand in my personal power? How do I show up and actually just share a little bit more of me, or just ask that one question or do that one act that shares something that's important to me? And each time we do that, we feel differently inside.
Yeah, I think there's a myth here that if I build relationships, if I know more, the confidence will come. And so we kind of pursue this unsustainable and quite fairly unrealistic and inefficient process of one day I will feel different, right? The act of confidence comes before the feeling of confidence. And so the importance here is those small acts of confidence. It's taking those moments to share a perspective. We talk about active confidence number 2, articulate and share your value. It's an important conversation. It's an important step for us in terms of being able to position ourselves, build our brand profile, active confidence number 7. But I think the other one here that's really important to talk about, which is redefining your relationship with fear and failure. This is life-changing. Our ability to be able to step into the uncomfortable moments, to test and learn and experiment, to be okay with not getting everything perfect. And here we are redefining our relationship with perfectionism. Again, another really important part of our work. But being able to do this, to experiment, to be really compassionate with yourself is really important in terms of starting to change those stories in our heads. Because in the absence of that, we are just locked in with those stories, right? And they will control us and they don't need to. So I think this piece around being able to say what you're great at from a place of personal power, equally what you're not great at. know truly who you are. I think in our experience, we're very good at knowing who we are. We're just not very good at sharing that with other people. So I think clarity of who you are, what you're great at, is critical. It's something we talk frequently about nearly every week in the AOC program, but also really leaning in and redefining your relationship with fear and failure, super important.
Yeah, I love this topic. And I think, the more that we're willing to do a little bit and take those small steps, the more we're going to experience something differently in ourselves. And that's where the shift starts to happen. If you'd like to hear more about our core confidence work, make sure you follow our page or head over to coreconfidence.com.au. This Friday, we've got a fantastic session, Momentum, picking up on our Career Accelerator series, where we're really going to, resource you with more of the tools that will make sure you achieve all that you want to in 2022.
So guys, we'd love to see you there. We're going to be digging into what's working well, most importantly, some of those things that are holding you back, and help you build a plan to make it happen in 2022.